Wow, I just stopped it. I pushed the wrong button completely. I meant to turn on the...
Hey everybody, it's Larissa LaRue again, and you're watching Crazy Talk, my YouTube show thing. I just reviewed everything that I've done so far today, and most of what I did yesterday, and I'm pretty happy with the way things are going in terms of my content. I'm not as happy with the quality of this camera. It's not as nice as I would like to be working with, but for now it's what I can afford, so that's fine for now. I was going over what I talked about, what I shot earlier, and I do like it. In one of my videos when I was in my studio, I was talking about my mental health, and I was talking about where it starts, where the healing really starts. And gratitude is really important, and your attitude is super important. Keeping a positive attitude when you're dealing with situations, symptoms, negative self-talk, cutting that out was really important for me, as well as breathing. My breath is hugely important. I realized that a lot of my anxiety would start when, something in the environment would trigger my anxiety, and my breathing would just stop. I'd start breathing really shallowly, which would perpetuate being anxious, because if you're starving for breath, it's really hard to be okay. So I just wanted to add that in to all of the ideas that I've been talking about today. I'm really excited to start sharing this content. I've got a few hours worth. I'm going to send it to my editor. Later on, I need to buy a little USB thing to give for all the videos. I'm really looking forward to sharing all of this with you and to hearing about your questions and comments. I mentioned in another video about how the first, hours worth of filming that I did got deleted. And so there's a bunch of things that I said that I need to repeat now, and I kind of have to remember what all those things are. I mentioned already about how I love talking about the mundane. I talked earlier about, as a visual artist, I know I'm not that good at it, but I do it anyway because it's cathartic, it's therapeutic for me. It forces me to focus on the moment. And I'm in my head and I'm talking to myself and I'm thinking about things, but I'm very much about the tactile event of paint to surface, substance to surface. That was the name of my grad show when I was in visual art school. And so I want to be a voice of guidance to anyone that's struggling. I would love to hear your stories, because I think, and I know, that sharing our stories is crucial to breaking down boundaries, breaking down barriers. I told a story earlier today about peace and how peace is a choice. You have to choose it. And one of the barriers between us and having a peaceful environment is thinking that we're disconnected, that we're also different from one another. And the truth is that, yes, we're all different, but we're also all the same. We're all different leaves on a tree. We're all part of the same collective, conscious being. The Earth, as the planet, is all one big organism. I read an article earlier today, I skimmed it, by a great artist who lives here in Vancouver, Jan Kasperek, who he wrote this big long article about waking up. And he's one of the many people who, like me, are trying to make art to help people wake up. And so I'm making these videos so that I can hopefully instigate or guide you, help you on your journey of waking up and realizing that this reality is not what we think it is. the limitations that we live within in our society, in our cultures, need not limit us at all. As an empath, I feel you. I feel all of you out in Vancouver, and I feel your suffering, and I feel your anger, and I feel your confusion. I feel your joy too, and I share it with you. But I'm here. Questions, comments, you want me to talk to your dead granny? I'm there for you. I want to do that. I want to hone my psychic abilities. Right now, it's like a untuned radio. I'm getting all of this data all of the time, and I don't understand most of it. So please help me help you, and we all get better for it. We're all better off. There's lots of people on YouTube that I watched a video the other day of this girl who was talking about how somebody told her she was doing feminism wrong. It was hilarious. I'll try and share a link or something like that to it when this video gets posted, and try to connect as much of us as we can. Usually for entertainment lately, I've been watching like New Girl and Supernatural, and I know that I need to get into watching things more like other YouTubers, because if you want to be a part of the community, you got to really interact with your community. So I can tell you another story right now. I'm actually just remembering a story looking at just the angle that the camera's catching my face is reminding me of, so I mentioned in another video that my mother's white, my father's black. My father is half black, half Chinese actually. He looks quite dark. I'm the whitest of all of my black people in my family. My mom is the only one I'm related to directly that's lighter than me. And well, I have cousins, kids who are lighter than me too. But of all of my cousins from my dad's side of the family, I'm the fairest. And I don't mean the prettiest. Everybody's pretty. My family is so good looking. So good looking. And that's a blessing. I think it's all the love, really. And so I was mentioning earlier, my mom it got deleted, so I have to say it again. My mom is white. Her father is French Canadian, and her mother was of Scottish Polish descent, and so actually Jewish Polish. And so my mother's mother was Jewish, for reals Jewish, and she married an Irish Scot. And so my grandmother, my parents' story is theirs to tell, but I just want to tell this one moment about how my grandmother was in the hospital. She was close to death. She wasn't going to live much longer. I think she passed away 6 or 7 months after my dad and I went to visit her. And I walked in the room, and I feel like I met this woman 5 or 6 times before in my whole life. And I walked in the room, and I'd never felt acceptance from her in any way whatsoever. And I walked in the room, and she said, we introduced ourselves, and she kind of remembered who we were, and she looked at me and said, you look like me. And I'm looking at myself in the camera's playback screen going, I do look like you. I do remind myself of my grandmother, my mother's mother right now. And I feel like that was the only time I ever felt even a little bit of acceptance from her, because I'd had lots of moments where, I remember going to her house when I was 5 or 6, probably younger actually, because I wouldn't have been in school yet, in kindergarten yet. And we had a very unpleasant visit, and then she slammed the door in our face when we left. And it was like, okay. It was, I'm so envious of people whose grandparents are living close by that they can go and visit them. I was estranged from my grandparents on my mom's side most of my life. And there were some visits. We had occasional visits with my mom's dad and his wife, and it was amicable. But they weren't like a really close, it wasn't a close relationship. Whereas my dad's mom, who actually made my mom's wedding dress, by hand. She's an amazing seamstress. My dad's mom, I love her to bits. And I have very few memories of being in her presence, but I cherish and love every one of them. She came up to visit when I was about 18 months old. I remember sitting on the couch with her. And then I went down to visit, well, my whole family went down to visit when I was about 5 or 6, and they were having their 50th wedding anniversary. And I remember just running through the door of the house and just jumping into her arms, and there was so much love between her and I. And they ended up coming out to visit us after that year. We had moved into a new house. And so I grew up emotionally close, but geographically distant from my father's parents. And even now, they're both passed away now. Even now, I still feel emotionally and close to them because death is not a thing for me. So I think I mentioned in another video that she was the one that nagged me the hardest about cutting my dreadlocks off. She did not appreciate that hairstyle at all. And so, yeah, just being me right now feels really good because I feel fairly supported by my spirit tribe. They're really, Matilda, I mentioned already, has been really pushing me to make these videos and be a voice, be of support to people who need it. That's my job. I'm a healer. I was born to heal. So here we are, here I am. That's what we're doing. And once we get my first episode up, I hope to continue telling stories, answering questions, and doing readings for people. Tarot card readings, psychic readings. Give me your information, give me something to go on, and I'll read the ether and see what's happening. For now, I think that should be enough for now. No, you want more stories right now? Right now? What other stories can I tell you? The story about the wallets in the toilet from NASCAN? Yeah, you want to hear that story? Okay, so when I was my first year at the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, I took intro painting with Jerry Ferguson, pretty famous Canadian painter, originally from like Oklahoma or something like that. And I was in the painting studio working on a piece of work, and I could hear across the hall from the studio the washroom toilet was running and running and running and running. And finally I got up and went and looked at the toilet and was like, why are you running? And I know how to fix a toilet, basically, like very basic, simple fixes. And so I took off the lid for the back reservoir and found a thick stack of credit cards and a set of keys and a few receipts. And so I'm thinking, okay, somebody's lost their wallet and it's been chucked into this toilet. So it was after 5 o'clock and the doors to the school get locked, but students are allowed 24-hour access. And so it was definitely after 5 o'clock, but somebody had come in way before 5, and because I remember the toilet had been running for quite a while. And so I looked through all these credit cards, and I'm just like, okay, somebody has a lot of credit cards. They're all the same name. And so I take them home and I look through the phone book and I find this person and give them a phone call. Leave a message. They call me back and they say, thank you so much. I was at a meeting today. Turns out the wallet, the credit cards and all the cards, there's driver's license, everything belonged to one person, but the keys belonged to another person. And what had happened was they had gone into a meeting at the Alexander Keith's brewery where they worked. They were both regional representatives, sales representatives for Kokanee and Alexander Keith's. So this was just in the beginning when Kokanee was starting to sell beer in Nova Scotia. It's a British Columbian beer, but it was still in the process of becoming a Nova Scotia beer. And so they had gone into a meeting, and someone had gone into the brewery and gone into the coat rack and stolen the jackets. And so apparently these guys' jackets were found on the other side of town, and their contents of their wallet ended up in the toilet at my school. And so we agreed on a time and place to meet up, and I gave them back all of their credit cards and the keys to the car, and he was so thankful because he hadn't canceled anyone. I'm talking like a thick stack of cards. It would have meant hours and hours on the phone to replace all those credit cards and cancel them all. It would have been a massive pain in the ass. And so as a thank you, they each gave me vouchers for 15 cans or bottle cases of beer. That's like 30 beers for little me in college. And so that's just proof. I'm just saying, I guess the reason why they want me to tell this story is that if you do nice things, you get paid for it. Now, I wasn't expecting anything. Okay, I was totally expecting something, but I didn't know what it would be. And I would have done it anyway because it's the right thing to do. And it's a funny story to tell, right? So that's that story. I think, yeah, this is a 15-minute video. That's good. That'll be fine for now. All right. That's a wrap. I realized, I was just out walking my dog, that I started a video, the last video that I just did. I started an idea that I didn't really finish. I started talking about breath and how important breath is for healing and for self-awareness. I think for healing, you have to increase your self-awareness, which means doing meditation and breathing exercises. So for me, I, as a stress breather, would always breathe in the top of my chest and the neck muscles. In order to bring yourself out of stress breathing, you have to bring your breath into your belly. Now your lungs only come down to about your waist. But you need to start imagining that your breath can energetically go all the way into your toes. I like to use my voice as I bring love and calm, universal divinity into my body. It pushes out toxic negativity that's living in my cells, which enters my bloodstream and exits my body through my breath. And sometimes I have an emotional reaction to sensing that exchange in my body. And my throat just activates. For me, because of my trauma, because of my history, because of smothering myself emotionally for so long, a lot of women are silenced in a lot of ways. And so for me to make a noise that says I'm frustrated was a huge breakthrough for me. For me to do that in a yoga class or just at any given moment to express myself emotionally was a huge step forward. Taking off those shackles that have been holding me down. Walking away from that invisible prison that I was living in. I think later on, probably not tonight because I'm about to leave the house. Maybe tomorrow or the next day, I'm gonna put the camera on me and put it in put it on my bedroom and my floor and do some yoga type exercises and show you what it looks like when I'm doing my gentle stretching. And it's just something I want to share with you. It'll be healing for me because being seen is really important. I spent a lot of time feeling invisible. When I was a kid, I would, in class in school, I would, enthusiastically put my hand up, and teachers almost never called on me, and it made me feel invisible, and I would give up. And then I'd get excited saying, I know this thing, and I'd do it again, and I'd give up. To the point that by the time I was high school, I was so jaded with the whole school system. And it happened again and again and again when I was in school. And so eventually I learned just to be quiet through class. I usually, if I did say anything out loud, I would regret it. Now as a professional, when I do continuing education, I often still don't put my hand up. I'll just say things. If I have something to say, I just say it. I don't wait for people's permission to speak anymore. I just say what I have to say, and it's been really liberating coming to that place in my life. So I gotta go out. Oh, yeah, I gotta go. All right, good. That's a wrap. See you guys later.